There's a moment in your financial life that almost no one talks about. Not your financial advisor, not the personal finance gurus, not even the retirement calculators you've been using for years. It's the moment when you can stop contributing to your retirement accounts and still retire exactly when you planned. Maybe even earlier. Most people never reach this moment because they don't know it exists. They keep contributing, sometimes out of discipline, sometimes out of fear, long past the point where it actually matters. But here's the uncomfortable part. Some people reach this moment in their early 40s. Others never reach it at all, even after contributing for 30 years. The difference isn't about how much you earn. It's about when you started, how consistently you invested, and this is the part that stings. How much of your income you didn't spend in your 20s and early 30s. Today, we're going to walk through the exact math that shows you when your retirement is already funded, when your portfolio becomes a self-sustaining engine, and why, for most people, the first 10 years of investing matter more than the next 20 combined. This isn't about motivation. It's about understanding a system that rewards early action in ways that feel almost unfair. Let's start with two people, same country, same income, very different futures. Meet Sarah and Jake. Both are 25 years old. Both live in Austin, Texas. Both just landed their first real job out of college, earning $65,000 a year. After federal and state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare, they each take home about $4,100 a month, standard middle-class American salary for someone starting out. Here's how their lives look. Rent is $1,200 for a decent one-bedroom apartment. Car payment is $450. Both financed a $28,000 car at 6% over 60 months. Insurance, gas, and maintenance add another $250. Groceries and food run about $400. Utilities, phone, and internet cost $180. Student loan payment is $320. Credit card minimum payments take $150. Subscriptions like Netflix, Spotify, and gym membership add up to $60. Miscellaneous spending is around $300. That's about $3,310 in fixed and semi-fixed expenses. They each have around $790 left over every month. Now here's where their lives split. Sarah decides to do something that feels boring and restrictive. She sets up an automatic transfer, $500 every single month into a Roth IRA, invested in a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. She doesn't think about it. She doesn't time the market. She doesn't watch YouTube videos about crypto or day trading. She just lets it happen. She lives on the remaining $290 for everything else, going out, clothes, travel, hobbies. It's tight. She says no to things. She doesn't upgrade her lifestyle when her friends do. Jake takes a different approach. He's not irresponsible. He's not reckless. He just wants to enjoy his 20s. He's been broke for years as a student, and now he finally has money. So he spends that $790. He goes out on weekends. He buys a nicer TV. He takes a trip to Europe. He upgrades his wardrobe. He lives in the moment. He tells himself he'll start investing seriously once he gets a raise, once he pays off his car, once life settles down. But life doesn't settle down. It gets more expensive. Fast forward 10 years. They're both 35 now. Sarah has contributed $500 a month for 10 years. That's $60,000 total. Assuming a 10% average annual return, the S&P 500's long-term average, her account is now worth approximately $102,000. She stops contributing. Completely. Not another dollar. She's tired of being disciplined. She wants to live a little. So she redirects that $500 toward travel, hobbies, maybe a nicer apartment. Jake, meanwhile, finally gets serious. He's 35. And he realizes he's behind. So he starts contributing the same $500 a month that Sarah just stopped. Now let's run the math to age 65, retirement age. Sarah, who stopped at 35, never contributes again, but her $102,000 continues to grow at 10% per year for the next 30 years. By age 65, her portfolio is worth approximately $1,770,000. Jake, who started at 35 and contributes $500 every month for 30 years, puts in a total of $180,000, 3 times more than Sarah. By age 65, his portfolio is worth approximately $1,130,000. Same monthly contribution, same rate of return. But Sarah ends up with $640,000 more because she started 10 years earlier. This is the part that makes people uncomfortable. Sarah contributed for 10 years and stopped. Jake contributed for 30 years and still ended up behind. The system didn't reward effort. It didn't reward discipline in your 40s and 50s. It rewarded timing. It rewarded the person who made the right decision early, even if they stopped trying later. And this is the moment we're talking about. The moment when Sarah, at age 35, no longer needed to contribute. Her retirement was already funded. The compounding machine was already running. Jake, on the other hand, never reached that moment. He'll contribute until he retires and still have less. So what is this moment exactly? It's the point at which your portfolio has grown large enough that compound growth alone will carry you to your retirement goal, even if you never add another dollar. Let's break this down with real numbers. Let's say your goal is to retire at 65 with $1.5 million. A reasonable target for someone who wants to retire comfortably in the US or Europe without relying entirely on Social Security or state pensions. Using the rule of 72, a quick way to estimate how long it takes for money to double at a given interest rate, you divide 72 by your expected return. If you're earning 10% per year, your money doubles roughly every 7.2 years. So if you have $375,000 in your retirement account at age 45 and you assume a 10% return, here's what happens. Age 45, $375,000. Age 52, $750,000, 1 doubling. Age 59, $1,500,000, 2 doublings. You've hit your goal at 59, 6 years early, without contributing another cent after age 45. That's the moment, the crossover point, the day your contributions stop mattering because compounding takes over. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people never reach this moment. Why? Because they start too late, or they contribute inconsistently, or they cash out their accounts when they change jobs, or they take loans against their 401k, or they stop contributing during market downturns because it feels wrong to invest when stocks are falling. And the cruelest part? The difference between reaching this moment and not reaching it often comes down to decisions you made in your 20s. Decisions you made before you fully understood their consequences. Let's look at Europe for a moment. In Germany, someone earning 50,000 euros a year takes home around 2,600 euros per month after taxes and social contributions. Rent in a city like Munich or Frankfurt might be 1,100 euros. Health insurance, transportation, food, and other basics might add up to another 900 euros. That leaves about 600 euros. If that person invests 400 euros a month, starting at age 25, they'll have roughly 85,000 euros by age 35, assuming 8% average annual returns, slightly more conservative than the U.S. stock market. If they stop contributing at 35 and let it grow until 65, that 85,000 euros becomes approximately 850,000 euros. If they wait until 35 to start and contribute 400 euros a month for the next 30 years, they'll end up with around 590,000 euros. Same pattern, same result. The early years matter more than the later ones. So why doesn't everyone just start investing at 22 and retire early? Because the psychological barriers are massive. First, delayed gratification feels like punishment. When you're 24 and your friends are going to Coachella, taking weekend trips to Barcelona, or buying new furniture for their apartment, choosing to invest $500 a month feels like you're missing out on life. You're trading something real and tangible, experiences, comfort, status, for something abstract and distant. Your brain is wired to prioritize the present. The future version of you, the one who's 55 and exhausted and wishes they'd started earlier, doesn't feel real yet. So you tell yourself, I'll start next year. I'll start when I make more money. I'll start when I feel more stable. But that day doesn't come, because there's always something else. A wedding, a car repair, a vacation, a nicer apartment. Second, we underestimate exponential growth. Humans think linearly. If you save $500 a month for 10 years, it feels like you should have $60,000. And you do, at first. But we don't intuitively grasp what happens when that $60,000 starts doubling every 7 years. We don't feel the acceleration. We don't see the curve. So when someone tells you, invest early, it sounds like generic advice. It doesn't hit emotionally. It doesn't create urgency. But when you actually run the numbers, when you see that 10 years of contributions at age 25 outperforms 30 years of contributions at age 35, that's when it clicks. And for some people, it clicks too late. Third, we're optimizing for the wrong things. Most people in their 20s are obsessed with their salary. If I can just get to $80,000, if I can just break 6 figures. But salary is only half the equation. The other half is savings rate. And nobody talks about that. You can earn $100,000 and save nothing. You can earn $55,000 and save 20%. The person earning less will retire earlier and wealthier if they start sooner. This is the part that stings, because we've been taught that career success equals financial success. But the data doesn't support that. The person who earns $60,000 and invests $500 a month from age 25 to 35 will retire with more money than the person who earns $120,000 and starts investing $1,000 a month at age 40. We're chasing income when we should be chasing time. Fourth, lifestyle inflation is invisible. You get a raise. Suddenly, your $1,200 apartment feels small. Your $450 car payment feels reasonable to upgrade. Your $15 lunch feels justified. You're not being reckless. You're just living at the level your income allows. But that's the trap, because every time your income rises, your baseline expenses rise with it. And the gap between what you earn and what you save stays the same, or shrinks. The people who reach financial independence early aren't the ones who earn the most. They're the ones who resist lifestyle inflation the longest. So, what does someone who understands this system actually do? They don't work harder. They don't hustle. They don't try to time the market or pick winning stocks. They just front-load their financial life. They treat their 20s like a financial sprint, not a dress rehearsal. They know that $500 invested at 25 is worth more than $1,000 invested at 40. So they prioritize investing early over earning more later. They live below their means, not forever, but long enough for compounding to take over. They automate their contributions so they never have to rely on willpower or motivation. And then, once they hit that crossover point, once their portfolio is large enough to grow on its own, they ease off. They stop contributing, they spend more freely, they enjoy life, but they earn that freedom by making sacrifices early when it actually matters. They ignore their peers. This is harder than it sounds. When everyone around you is financing new cars, taking expensive vacations, and upgrading their apartments, choosing to live like a college student in your late 20s feels socially uncomfortable. But financially intelligent people recognize that their peers are playing a different game, a game that optimizes for appearance, not wealth. And they're okay with looking less successful for a decade if it means being actually successful for the rest of their lives. They understand the difference between rich and wealthy. Rich is a high income. Wealthy is financial independence. You can be rich and broke. Plenty of people earning $150,000 live paycheck to paycheck because their expenses match their income. Wealthy people have assets that generate income. And the earlier you build those assets, the less you have to rely on your salary. They calculate their crossover point. This is something you can do right now. Take your retirement goal. Let's say it's $1.5 million. Divide that by 2, then by 2 again. That's 2 doublings. $1.5 million divided by 2 equals $750,000. $750,000 divided by 2 equals $375,000. If you can get your portfolio to $375,000 and you have about 14 to 15 years until retirement, you're done. You no longer need to contribute. Compounding will do the rest. For someone starting at 25, that might mean contributing aggressively for 12 to 15 years and then stopping entirely. For someone starting at 35, it might mean contributing for 20 years and never quite reaching the moment where contributions stop mattering. The math is unforgiving, but it's also neutral. It doesn't care about your intentions or your excuses. It just rewards early action. Here's the thing nobody wants to say out loud. If you're 35 and you haven't started investing, you didn't miss the boat. You can still retire comfortably, but you missed the moment. The moment when your contributions could have stopped mattering. The moment when you could have eased off and let compounding do the work. That moment is gone. And the reason it's gone isn't because you were irresponsible. It's because no one explained this to you when you were 22. Because the culture around you prioritized experiences and lifestyle over long-term wealth. Because delaying gratification felt like losing. You made rational decisions based on the information and incentives you had at the time. But the system doesn't care. The math doesn't care. Compound interest rewards the people who understood the game early, whether they deserved to or not. And if you're 25 right now reading this, you have a choice. You can do what feels natural, spend your income, enjoy your 20s, and start investing later when you have more money. Or you can do what feels uncomfortable, live below your means for a decade, automate your contributions, and reach the crossover point before your 40th birthday. One path leads to working until 65 and hoping your portfolio is enough. The other path leads to financial independence in your 40s, where contributions no longer matter because compounding has already won. Neither path is wrong, but only one of them gives you options. The exact moment you no longer need to invest for retirement isn't based on age. It's based on math. It's the moment your portfolio is large enough that compound growth alone will carry you to your goal. For some people, that moment comes at 40. For others, it never comes. The difference is almost entirely determined by what you did in your 20s and early 30s. Not what you earned, not how hard you worked, but how much you saved and how early you started. This isn't about guilt. If you're behind, you're behind. The math doesn't change based on how you feel about it. But it also means that if you're young, you still have the single most valuable asset in finance, time. And if you use it, you'll reach a point where money works for you instead of the other way around. That's the moment, and it's worth everything. If this shifted how you think about investing, consider subscribing. We'll keep breaking down the systems that no one explains clearly. Thanks for watching.